I'm Soren. This is a podcast where a couple of Midwest women cultivate a community at the D&D table. And this week, we're talking about new player mistakes, not intro mistakes.
I'm Caitie.
And I'm Soren again. But yeah, this week we're going to talk about some Woh-ohs, if you will, when it comes to being a new player. A couple things, well, several things that we don't want to see new players do, but that we often are just prey to when we start playing new games.
They're traps.
Traps. It's a trap.
It's a trap.
Cue the millennial meme. So if we so to just go ahead and start it off. Caitie, I think the way that you titled this when we were talking about it initially made the most sense. But the first mistake we see, or the first thing that we think a lot of new players fall prey to, is being vocal in every single scene. Mm-hmm. What does that mean, Caitie?
Okay, so just that you feel like silence is your enemy, right? So just because you're in a group scene does not necessarily mean that every member in the group scene has to have quote unquote lines, right? Mm-hmm. So allow yourself the permission to listen and allow yourself the ability to let other people have the center stage a little bit.
Yeah. I think it's very easy, and pardon my coughing, it's very easy to get into a space like a brand new campaign, especially when you're a new player, and to feel like if you're not contributing, or if you're not active in the act of mm-hmm. playing for the whole experience or the whole session, mm-hmm. that you're gonna miss out, or you're gonna miss something. But truly practicing a little bit of that active listening, I think, can actually help. And silence is not your enemy,
right?
In this scenario,
especially I think in D&D scenes. I mean, this isn't true of every scene ever, mm-hmm. but it can be true that you have more emotionally tense scenes, things like that, and especially if you're new to the table, I think it can be easy to feel like that dead space is uncomfortable.
Yeah,
and wanting absolutely. To put something there, but think about your favorite movies, and some of those more powerful moments mm-hmm. are powerful because it's quiet.
Go watch any Studio Ghibli movie.
Sure.
At all.
And similarly, with the group scenes we were talking about, there's a time and a place for your sick goof-em-ups.
Yeah.
But your sick goof-em-ups don't make every scene better.
Yeah. There's a time and I guess, that kind of just goes into time and place.
Right.
And especially when you're new, we're going to talk about this through several of our new player mistakes today. Is there's a balance that you have to strike, right? If you want to be involved in the scene as a new player, absolutely go for it. Right. But there is such thing as excess in being involved in the scene, and then a lack of being involved.
It does take a certain amount of self-awareness and reading the room, being able to read the situation. Mm-hmm. And I understand that everybody has varying degrees of comfortability with those two things.
Absolutely.
And that's okay. I would encourage you in those moments to try to practice that and ask yourself, is this the time for my joke? Does my joke fit here? Or my bit that I'm playing does my bit fit here? Mm-hmm. Or is my bit hindering another player's ability to step forward? Or is my bit hindering the progression of the scene at large? Mm-hmm. Because I think those two things are the biggest red flags. Is okay, so John is doing his bit, and his bit is so loud and forceful that Susie
no
Susie can't find a way to enter the scene because she can't get a word in edgewise around John's bit.
Yeah.
Or conversely, John's bit is so loud and forceful that the party in its whole is trying to make a decision or try to decide where to go next or move forward along this progressive story, but we can't because John's bit is so loud and so forceful. We can't move forward until this bit is over. So I just think that it's a trap because we talked about this, you find discomfort in silence.
Yep.
It's a trap because you want to be involved.
And it's a trap because you're scared and it's new.
Right. So and neither of doing the bit and wanting to be involved, those aren't bad things inherently.
Yeah.
It's just making sure that you are collaboratively telling the story with everybody at your table and it's not a one man or a one person show. Yeah. Second one?
Yeah, second one.
Don't not ask for assistance.
Now, you might have heard a double negative, but you did not hear a double negative.
You should ask for assistance is what I'm trying to say. The trap that you're falling into is not asking for assistance.
That. Yeah.
And the way I brought this up, and then I'm going to toss this back to you because you had thoughts about it. I am somebody who is willing to help players. And I have seen more than once at our own table moments where the choice was, I've got to figure this out myself. So I'm going to figure it out myself and then cause myself overwhelmed because I can't figure it out.
Yeah.
Or I'm overwhelmed. So I'm just going to make this choice that I don't feel good about. And then I'm going to leave the session feeling like I don't enjoy what I'm doing. I don't enjoy this part of the game, generally combat. I don't enjoy this part of the game and I don't know how to make it better for myself. So I just don't like this anymore. So the trap is not asking for help when you need it in order to make yourself seem less like you require assistance. Right.
Right. And something that I brought up while we were just solidifying our thoughts for today's episode was I frequently identify as a type of player that gets overwhelmed by combat and by all of the choices that I can make, because it's not like a video game where you're going to figure it out in half a second that what you did isn't going to work well. And you can replay it 1,000 times. But when you're playing D&D, you don't get a do-over. And so I get very overwhelmed by that. And on many occasions, I ask Caitie or TJ for help. And the thing that I said to Caitie when we were prepping was, if I could impart anything, if I could share anything with new players, it's that you don't have to be able to ask exactly what it is you want help with. You don't have to ask, I really need help with figuring out how to do this specific spell in this way. You don't need all of that garbage jargon. You can simply say, I'm not sure what to do. I feel overwhelmed. Can you help me make a decision? And that helps 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
And both Caitie and TJ are great table mates to have because they're very good at looking at the surrounding issue and then kind of helping you figure out how to pinpoint attack that. But you have to ask.
Right.
So that was the biggest thing I wanted to impart or share with others is 1, there's nothing wrong with asking. 2, I think one of the toughest things you can do as a new player is not ask for help. And then 3, if you don't ask, you're just going to be left feeling kind of icky and you never want to do combat.
Right.
And the more I ask for help, the more combat feels easier as we've gone through this campaign.
I also mentioned there's been times in our playthrough of Baldur's Gate that I will ask TJ based on the current situation we're both in, do you think I should do this offensive spell or do you think I should buff this other player? And so like that could also be a version of how you ask for help. Maybe it's not just like, hi, can you help me? Maybe you have a couple of ideas and you're like, do you think I should do this? Or do you think I should do this? And that is a great way for then me as the person helping to say like, ooh, in this point of the game, I would choose this, but you can do whatever you want. So if you like this idea, I would say do this, like that kind of thing. I had a thought that came up with that.
And you lost it.
In my own conversation. While I was talking myself, I lost it.
Well, what I was... Oh, shoot. I just lost mine.
Whoa. It's a vortex. Watch out.
You were talking about... okay. So what that got me thinking of was the idea of like metagaming and like over strategizing and like above table over complicatedly like talking about it, which we've talked about in our episode above and below table information, kind of, in and out of character information. We'll try to put that episode in the cards if you haven't listened or seen it yet. If that one's on YouTube, I can't remember now. Cool. We'll just link it. We'll link the episode to Spotify. You're gonna listen to it. But this idea of like metagaming, and for anyone who's not familiar, just this idea of like kind of over intellectualizing like decisions that you make in the game, like above table kind of, and it kind of like capitalizes on like what your character might know or not know, and it's kind of like overly optimizing the game. And some tables like straight up like don't allow it, like crosstalk and like strategizing. But I think it's it's a fun fantasy game we're all playing just for fun. So like why not?
I would say like in this scenario, and we're talking about like 5 traps for new players, right? If Sam were a DM or TJ were a DM that was like, hey, no helping. Or like don't strategize above table, like that kind of a thing. Yeah. I might make the argument that like, hey, this person's never done this before or is new to this, so I kind of want to show them the ropes of how to think about combat. Absolutely. And hope that would kind of help the players or DMs that are concerned about metagaming feel a little bit more at peace with that. But I tend to agree with you that this is like a fun fantasy game that we're all having, or that we're all playing to have fun. So like, I don't know, the metagaming that I worry about more often is like role playing. So like the metagaming pigeon of just like, I think you should say this, you know, like that kind of a thing.
Yeah, like inserting.
Yeah, that is a little, and I will say like in this point, not asking for assistance, if we were to talk about it from a role-playing perspective instead of a combat perspective, if you were asking for assistance in a role-playing scene, I think that might sound like, sorry, can we pause for a second? I want to talk above table. I just don't really know what my options are, or I don't know what I should be thinking about. Yeah. Does anybody have some just like brief tips on how they would approach a scene like this?
Yeah, geez, and that just like pulled me out of the fact that we both like grew up performing most of our lives. Right. And so like absolutely still run into scenarios like that in role play, but yeah, I feel like we far more often talk about asking for assistance in combat situations. But I'm sure we have plenty of people who like aren't theater involved, and aren't like acting focused or anything, or like their tables are far more combat related, so like maybe asking for assistance with role playing makes more sense for them.
And I think that's how if you're the assister, not the assistee, I could also see somebody in that scenario just kind of clamming up and not knowing how to ask for help in that minute. Absolutely. or saying, what do I say? And that might, if you're sensitive to metagaming and you don't want to just like, here's what you should say, you could say like, okay, well, here are your options. You could do this, you could try that, you could, kind of Baldur's Gate, like be like, here are the different ways you could approach this scene.
Yeah.
But you have to make the choice and you have to come up with what to say.
Yeah.
Like, so you could ask them for this. You could try to intimidate them to giving us information by doing something like this, like that kind of a thing. Or, I mean, we've had some scenarios where we've had a player kind of like clam up, and as the assister, usually our table does something like, it's good, take your time.
Yeah.
Or like, you got it. Like, it's just like doing like very basic like encouragement of just like, it's okay, you got it, it's no big deal. Like, and I think we've talked about in those like role-playing episodes that we've already done, there are sometimes DMs who will like want to pressure the like,
yeah, like
you got to tell me what you're doing,
add
do
some
something.
stakes to it, because otherwise like we're just gonna get strung out and we're going to be here for far more hours than is necessary. So like the stakes and like the time brackets like are very helpful tools sometimes.
And could also be, I mean, think about it in a real life scenario, right? So like you're in a conversation with someone else and they say something to you that prompts some sort of a response. You just like 404 page not found for like a minute and a half.
Someone's
like that's not how that goes.
Someone's gonna be like,
hello,
are you okay?
So that pressure from the DM is also like trying to push you into making a choice, even if it's not one that's like overly well thought out. But in that session, in those times when we've seen that, we've said to that person like, it's good, take your time, or you know your character, you can make this choice. Like there is no wrong choice. You're not going to make anybody upset by choosing the wrong thing, like that kind of a stuff. So I think in either scenario, combat or role playing, it's more than appropriate to say, okay, pause, I need help. This was the thing I was going to say, for combat, if you can, because there's a round, right? So like everybody goes before it comes back to you.
Yeah.
I, as somebody who does assist relatively frequently, it is helpful to the people who assist you if you can ask for help before it's your turn. So I think I've seen it happen both ways, where somebody says, oh shoot, here's what I think I'm going to do, but do you think I should do this? In the like downtime between turns. Yeah. And then we can kind of talk about it and strategize and not draw, frankly, attention to the fact that you need help at that point, right? You're not making a big deal about it. Yeah, because sometimes
that's the thing I think freaks people out too, is like asking for help immediately puts a spotlight on me.
Right.
And makes, it's putting yourself and the player like in an uncomfy situation, which is fair.
If you do that, it can be a little bit more discreet. But it also gives both of us time to think and talk about it and whatever. And that might even give the assisting player a chance to say like, well, here's what I'm going to do. And I go before you. So maybe I can do this to allow you to do that, like that kind of a thing. Rather than if you ask for help, like, okay, Sam goes, okay, Soren, it's your turn.
Help.
And then what will probably happen is you'll sit there and look at your character sheet for 30 seconds. You'll probably end up saying like, oh gosh, I'm so sorry, I don't know what to do. Can somebody help? And then it's so anxious, like for you feel like there's this time like countdown of how quickly you need to act, and you're just in a heightened state in general
of stress.
So I mean, if that's what happens, and somebody will come over and help you and you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But if you can be proactive and say like, okay, my turn's coming up and wow, I'm looking at my stuff and I really just don't know what like avenue to take. Hey, and then you lean over to the next person and say like, can you help me decide, that kind of a thing.
I don't think it's like a genuinely established language that I've developed with TJ, but there's like a certain like eye look I'll give him like across the room, because we usually don't sit next to each other, because shocker, I'm gonna bug him the whole time and he's gonna bug me the whole time and we're just gonna be like hee 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 hee. but we're usually across the table from each other, and I'll look at him and I'll just be like,
Yeah.
And that's okay, and that's good. We've spent a good chunk of time talking about this one.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the third one.
Okay.
Yeah. So just like we talked about at the beginning, being vocal in every scene, the very first topic we brought in, being overly vocal in every single scene as a new player, probably not the best move. But on the flip side of that spectrum is being completely silent and not participating at all. And in a way, portraying this like too cool to be here, too cool for school, like apathetic approach to playing. It's you had some thoughts on this.
Yeah.
I just was introing it.
Yeah, so I like Soren said, like I think the key here is that there's a spectrum, and we're talking about the excess on either side. So being so vocal that nobody else can get a word in edgewise because you're all over the place, or not saying anything ever and not participating in anything ever, is also detrimental. And we both had like put together this like too cool for school idea, and it is akin to I went to Disney World with my father for my 25th birthday, and I was like a little worried because it's Grainger. Wow.
He has entered the chat.
I was a little worried going to Disney World with my cerebral father because I enjoyed Disney, and I think he also does, but it's just like a different vibe. And we were at dinner or walking back to the resort or something like that at one point, and we were talking about how we were having a good time and how it was really fun. And he had mentioned, like Disney's just a place where you can't be too cool for school. And he's so right. And that's true. Oh my God. Yes.
Oh no.
Grainger. He's like, but I love it though.
But it's giving me a great scratch. Will you lay down?
Not before I hit my butt over the microphone.
Will you, make some biscuits and lay down?
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know what's happening.
That's great.
Your dad said you can't be too cool for school at Disney.
Yeah, you can't be too cool for school at Disney. And if you are too cool for school at Disney, you're going to have a bad time. Like, it's not going to be fun for you. And I think that's true of a lot of things in life in general.
Absolutely.
And D&D is one of them. So if you walk into it thinking this is some nerd game for nerds, then you're going to have a bad time and it's not going to be fun. So the idea that being silent, either out of nerves and not being sure what to do and not taking risks like we've talked about in previous episodes, or being silent because this is a nerd game for nerds. Both of those are hindering your enjoyment of the game, and in some, circles could be hindering other people's enjoyment of the game as well.
Yep. Like as much as the people at the table who are not acting like apathetic towards the game, as much as it's their game too, and they can have fun without you. Nobody likes to play at a table with someone who just like very clearly doesn't want to be there.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, I think anytime I walk into a situation, whether it's D&D or not, and I have like walked in with that kind of apathy, this is like leaning into therapy territory. When I walk in with that kind of attitude, like I don't have a good time.
Yeah, you're guaranteeing a bad time. Because
you almost are looking for more reasons that it's not cool, or more reasons that it's cringe. Right. And like it's just like we said, like the last point, we're just trying to have a silly, fun, good time with our friends.
Yeah, I say it to my students a lot of just like in of course this is in like a dance, lens, but being too cool for school does nothing but hurt yourself. Yeah. And you're being too cool for school in an effort to not be cringe generally, right?
Yeah, right.
And so like, I don't know, just why limit yourself to the enjoyment of life in general? You know, like why not enjoy life and be cringe than not enjoy life and protect some sort of image you think you have?
Yeah, exactly. Some sort of image you think you have.
Right. Or you want to have.
Sure.
Right.
And like, just come play the silly game with us.
Right.
Come, pretend you're 15 again for 5 minutes.
Right. Or be 15.
Or 2 hours, whatever. Or be 15.
Maybe you are 15.
Maybe you are 15.
And in which case...
Hello.
Are you sure you're allowed to listen to this? Okay. Are you sure? Let's roll with it, shall we?
Oh, yeah. Let's do that. I love that.
We're rolling with it on the current table today.
Grainger, are you going to roll with it with us?
This is so wild that he is just like hanging out.
He's so mad that I just asked him.
How dare you speak to me?
Hi.
Okay, we're rolling. 18, it says.
Don't ever visit the podcast.
All right. What recent purchase did you make that you are very happy about? Size / price doesn't matter, it says.
I bought a giant.
Doesn't matter.
The biggest squishmallow. I didn't. I have enough. I have 5. Let's see. Recent purchase that I'm very happy about. Now I have to kind of go back through.
Yeah, I'm like
things that I've purchased recently. I guess I will. Okay, I think I do. I have 2.
Okay.
So I love the resale app Depop. I found many a super cool, like thrifty shirt and pant. But I found a pair of shoes on Depop that I've been looking for a long time. I'll see if I can get TJ a picture of them, but they are like wooden leather clogs and they have like a Mary Jane, like, ankle strap to them. And I've just been looking for something like that in my closet for forever. So found a pair. They're like reasonably priced. The seller was very nice. And it was just like a great experience. And I feel like, go into one like Depop like comment section or YouTube comment section and people just like rip it to shreds. But I loved this experience. And so now I have a cool pair of shoes. The other thing that we bought recently was we bought a new cat tower for Cora. So we just assembled it yesterday. And by yesterday, at this point when you're listening to this is months
ago. Yeah.
But we got a new cat tower for her. She just completely destroyed her last one, which is fine and fair. That's what they're for.
Right.
But it was just time to get a new one, and it's got a little cave as the base, so she can kind of like hide in there. And then the very top level, it's one that like is a tension rod, so it can go from floor to ceiling. And the very top level has like one of the cat beds that's kind of like squishy. It's like just the little like bowl that she can sit in. So it's been fun to watch her like playing around on that. But those are 2 purchases that I've been very happy with recently.
I was about to say something lame because I went to Target the other day and just say like, I don't know, I bought a new toilet bowl cleaner. But then I remembered.
You're 30.
We bought my brother and me tickets for June.
Thank you for reminding me. We will have already gone at this point. Yeah. So I'm sure we'll tell you guys about it.
It is May currently. And they're coming to Kansas City, Missouri in June. And we will be there. So if you're there, holler at you girls.
Well...
Maybe.
You will have heard this already.
Yeah, oh my god, true.
This will have already happened. You might have already hollered at your girls, as it were.
But yeah, I'm very excited about
We'll be sure to like post about it.
Yeah.
So maybe it'll be you scrolling back through our posts about going to it. But I'm very excited. Yeah. I think it'll be very fun.
Yeah.
I love those boys.
Sam and I have gone to one of the Adventure Zone live shows. And that was great and good and fun. They fought Santa. It was great. But I've never been to a Mabim before, so I'm very excited to watch that and see what kind of sick goof 'em ups they do. I saw at their last one, they like usually have some sort of a theme that they dress within.
Yes.
And this year is 20 Fungalore.
Oh yes, yes,
and
yeah.
so they recently had like a live show that they put up on their feed, and Griffin was like, "You guys, I asked you what the theme was, and you just said mushroom." And so it's like Travis and Justin wearing like mushroom shirts kind of a thing. And Griffin bought like a child-sized toad costume. And so he's like, if I take the hat off, I'm like doing really bad appropriation with like the vest, like a bad Aladdin. He was like, but the hat hurts so bad.
But the hat is what makes it, Griffin. So slap it on.
Anyway, so I'm really excited to go and see them.
I'm very excited.
It'll be fun.
I've never seen them, but I enjoy anything and everything that I consume that they make.
So good. so good.
I'm very excited.
So good. Okay, back at it.
All right.
Number 4. It's not taking notes. We've talked about this more than once. But this kind of fits, these last two honestly kind of fit into that possible apathy place of like, if you don't care, why are you there? So not taking notes. In our previous note-taking episodes, you might recall that we very firmly believe that like taking notes is a part of being engrossed in the game and keeping track of what's going on in the game, and kind of giving your DM the like mutual respect of like, wow, you came up with this, I'm gonna keep track of it, kind of a thing.
That circular relationship.
Yeah, and so I think this one's a little bit self-explanatory as to like why this would be a trap for players, but you're just gonna like, listen, you're gonna forget. You're gonna forget what happens. You're gonna forget. So like,
how many times am I like sitting in a session? Oh shoot, that was part of my notes. My notes thought was this is also part of that spectrum. Is either you write every single thing that comes to your head, or you write absolutely nothing.
Right.
Both are not helpful.
Right.
The middle ground is just keep track of the important stuff.
Yeah.
But how many times I have been listening in session and we just kind of got a bombshell or like a big piece of information came up and I just happened to be doodling instead.
Yeah, right.
And so I just like didn't write it down, and I regret it every time, because then we sit down for the next session and everyone's like, okay, let's like do a recap. And I'm like, yes, recap. I drew the really cool gnome queen. Would you like to see that doodle?
It's like showing up to class and hearing there's gonna be a pop quiz and then being like, oh no.
I present you my gnome queen doodle. Does that pass the quiz?
And I don't know. We've talked about the spectrum of taking notes. And I take more notes than the average, generally. And then there's the train of thought that's like, I'm only going to take notes on the things my character knows.
Yes.
And that's also fine.
Yep.
It's like the not taking any notes whatsoever, unless, and we said this, I remember saying exactly this in our note-taking episode. If your brain is a steel trap, Fort Knox, then don't take notes, whatever. That's on you.
So we make that clarification, like if you are just so cerebrally smart and you magnet for memory,
right?
Don't listen.
Really, this is what the moral of this particular trap is: don't show up to the next session not knowing what's going on. Yeah, don't show up and expect everyone to fill in the blanks for you. Right.
That's going to happen a little bit naturally, because as you all come back together, you all take notes on something different.
Right.
But do yourself a favor. And something that I wrote with this note system thought was that you didn't show up and you didn't decide what's my system going to be. And I'm not saying it needs to be fully thought out. This is how I'm going to bullet and notate quotes, and I'm not saying that. I'm saying, are you going to be taking notes digitally? Are you going to be taking them on pen and paper? And then giving yourself that structure.
Yeah.
You haven't decided on that, you probably need to.
Right. And yeah. So if you if you cannot take notes and retain all the information and show up next session and easily pick up where you left off and say like, yep, I know exactly what we're doing. I know exactly what everybody else did in the story, or I know comfortably what I did in the story and that's all that I need, then that's cool. But if you can't, if you don't take notes and then you show up next session, you're like, yeah, what did we do? That's a problem, and you should probably take notes.
It's one thing when when it's our whole group that shows up and says that, because maybe the session was months ago.
Right.
That's the other side of like this coin is like, if anything, take notes, because we all know it's a meme. We know it's funny that it's hard to get a D&D group together.
Yeah.
So take the notes.
Right.
Take them.
Because you don't know how long it's going to be until the next session.
Unless you guys are
playing
so
weekly.
tight and you're so good at organizing 5 to 7 people's schedules.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So take the notes. Do yourself a favor.
Right. Last but certainly not least, and this one kind of ties into the last one,
A little bit.
is not looking over your character sheet before your game.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to pop off the top with this one in that, as somebody who offers assistance, it is so frustrating to offer assistance when the person hasn't even tried to understand their own stuff before I walked over there to help them out.
Yeah.
So part of this game is collaboration, but part of this game is knowing your stuff well enough to be able to collaborate.
Yeah.
And if you haven't even taken a second to understand your own stuff first, then that shows a certain level of apathy toward it. Or I don't know, what did I say before we started? It was like either they're so apathetic they don't care enough to look it over, or they just like haven't. Like,
or it's that neutral kind of not caring.
Yeah, right.
Where there's just a nothing there, no lights on in the house. Right. You just actually don't care, and it's the kind of don't caring, not caring that is past apathy.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, yes, like try your best to look over your character sheet, and you don't have to be an expert in your like class and race and all that. Those things the way I think of it is like those mind tomes take time to build up naturally. But and maybe this could be like a nice tie-in for how you take notes, but try to like take your character sheet and then maybe like regurgitate in your words, because this is what helps me learn things, is read whatever your character sheet tells you about like a certain like spell or ability that you have, and then reform that thought in your own words, write it down. Right. The more vehicles you use to try to remember something that involve different parts of you, like whether it's physical, whether it's writing it down, whether it's saying it out loud, whether it's talking about it with a friend, all of those methods are going to help you learn that character better. Yeah.
And I understand that D&D is a silly fun game that we play for us maybe once a month. But the thing that we've talked about in previous episodes that I will die on this hill is like, yes, it's a silly fun game, but it does require a certain amount of attention and care. Yeah. And you have to understand that there are people in your party right now who are putting in that attention and care. And so when you show up to the game not having put in that attention and care, it shows. Like, people can tell. It sends a message. Yeah, people can tell, and it sends a message. And the people who do care and who do want to play are excited to get into this game once a month and be like, okay, now I've been looking forward to this whole month. Let's do it. And having to sit there and be like, oh, wait, Susie has to read over her character sheet because she hasn't thought about it a lick since we met the last time. Or we have to give a detailed recap because half of the party didn't take notes at all, and so nobody remembers what was going on, so we have to go like line by line and talk about everything.
And we really are like getting into the weeds of like being in a D&D party, as much as we can talk about how these are traps that new players can fall into. If you've been playing a campaign for a long time, any player, can fall, like new or seasoned can fall into one of these traps. And it's kind of, we talk about this a lot on the podcast, but playing D&D can absolutely be a reduced and like tiny biome of practicing like real life. Just with fantasy coding.
Right.
And so like dealing with other players, dealing with their ish, our own ish, like that is in itself part of real life. But these are the things that, I mean, these are some of the pitfalls of playing D&D. And so if you can be aware of them ahead of time, try to avoid them, and go back to our episode about being a good player at the table.
I bet it's all of this, but reversed. It's been a long time since we recorded that one, but I have a feeling.
I think I dropped like 3 different episode references in this, so I will, TJ, I will get all of that to you. We'll try to reference all of those, like either in the description below or somewhere in there, so that you guys can listen to them, because
they're good stuff.
We think it's good stuff. We think it's important and cool and fun to talk about.
Right.
What do you think, Grainger? Is that it for us this week? He says yes. That's it for us this week. Thanks for spending time with us today, and thanks to Noah Tremble for the use of our theme song. There's a link to his Instagram in the episode description below, so be sure to follow him on social media and go check out all of his music and stay up to date on his next projects.
If you're enjoying the show, there's a few things that we would appreciate it if you would do. First one is to leave a review, either in the comments on YouTube or on your podcatcher of choice. Reviews to help everybody else find us, so it's helpful. Second, follow us wherever you get your podcasts or your videos, so that you can find our new episodes easier. Lastly, follow us on Facebook and Instagram to see what we're up to and be the first to know when episodes drop, or when we're going live, or if we're streaming on Twitch, or if we've got something crazy that you should know about.
We also want to hear from you. So if you heard something in today's episode that like striked your own like stream of thoughts, please, like, again, drop those in the comments, or send an email to us. We'd love to hear from you all, and you can send that to chromaroses@gmail.com. That's CHROMAROSES@gmail.com, all lowercase, and we can't wait to hear from you.
This has been Chromatic Roses. I'm Caitie.
And I'm Soren. Fight evil, love others.
Okay, love you. Bye.